live in a constitutional republic that's trying to do things without our Judeo-Christian values. The biggest thing right now, I will tell you, is what's going on at our southern border. When you've got a country without borders, you don't have a country. We have to get moral values back into our country, and you can't do that when you have a million people every couple of months come into this country that know nothing about God, that know nothing about our laws and Constitution.
And this.
Do your thing, sing it, sister, right? But we have to presume that some of these people do not intend to vote for Joe Biden over this.
Southern border on Thursday and was horrified to discover it is being swarmed by criminals and rapists.
Because everybody I speak to says how horrible it is. Nobody explained to me how allowing millions of people from places unknown, from countries unknown, who don't speak languages. We have languages coming into our country. We have nobody that even speaks those languages. They're truly foreign languages. Nobody speaks. They like Trump. Can you believe it?
No, I can't believe it.
I want to talk about smoke and mirrors at the U.S. border.
Democratic Senator Chris Murphy, one of the negotiators on that bipartisan Senate legislation that the former president tanked. Senator Murphy, I mean, when you see the former president at the southern border today referring to, criminals and terrorists and people from mental hospitals, after he effectively killed the bipartisan bill that you worked to negotiate, what runs through your mind?
Well, I mean, first of all, this invasion rhetoric is just absolutely disgusting. It's xenophobic. It's racist. Go to Ukraine. You'll see what an actual invasion looks like. This is, somebody who dodged the draft, who has no idea what an actual war looks like.
I like the government.
The migrants don't like you. They just walked 1,000 miles to get to edge of this river, and they're probably thinking, is that weirdo in a Trump costume waving us into the country?
Side note, it does seem that the Trump campaign has a novel approach to making up these lost votes. They say they're making major headway with the black community. Why? Well, only the most comically racist of reasons, of course. It's because Donald Trump has been arrested and put out some shoes.
President Trump does not want to fix the border. He does not want to fix the border because all he wants is a chaotic border because he thinks it helps him politically. We had a deal, a bipartisan compromise, a tough set of new restrictions on the border, including the ability for the President of the United States to close portions of the border when crossings get too high. And Donald Trump instructed his allies in the United States Senate to kill that bill. And he's been pretty clear why, because he thought it would help Joe Biden, because it would be good for America. So we still have a chance to come together and pass that bipartisan border bill that would help us control the border. Yeah. Donald Trump is the primary thing standing in the way.
It's interesting because the president had tweeted out, the former president had tweeted out, this is not a perfect border bill. Obviously, no bill is perfect. It's called the compromise, and things have to make compromises. But certainly Democrats bent over backwards in ways they hadn't before. And I mean, this was, as you say, a very tough border bill. Kyrsten Sinema had said that according to the requirements in this border bill, if they were in place, the border would have been shut down pretty much every day of this year.
That's right, because this bill included an unprecedented ability for the president to stop processing claims in between the ports of entry when crossings are above 5,000 a day, and they have been above 5,000 a day since the end of last year. Our compromise bill was supported by the pro-Trump Border Patrol Union. It was supported by the Wall Street Journal, the Chamber of Commerce. This was a conservative, tough bill.
So you got this bullshit today? I mean, give me a break.
Baby.
President Joe Biden and Donald Trump both traveled to the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas on Thursday. Biden was in Brownsville, where border crossings are down lately. Trump was in Eagle Pass, where there's been a standoff between Texas and the federal government over enforcement.
It's time for the speakers and some of my Republican friends in Congress who are blocking this bill to show a little spine. Pass a bipartisan, remember, bipartisan, conservative leaders supported this border security bill. Let's remember who we work for God's sake. We work for the American people.
Biden does not care about either Texas or the border and what's going on. As a result, you see a disaster. The United States of America is dealing with more deadly consequences than we have in our entire lifetime.
Oh, please. That's absurd. You're absurd.
That would have allowed the president to control the border. And because it actually would have been successful in controlling the border, Republicans led by Donald Trump killed it because they just can't imagine a world in which they can't exploit the border for political purposes.
It also seemed to have pretty sensible, requirements on increasing funding for judges to process asylum claims much quicker when people first cross over. I mean, the asylum system in this country is insane that people can just say that, well, they want to claim asylum, and it'll take years for any kind of a hearing to take place. And meanwhile, they're here, and legally they can't work.
Our negotiations took 4 months, and people were impatient to see the product, but it was because we were actually trying to solve the problem. We weren't writing a bill that was just going to score political points. Senator Lankford and I are very different politically, but we are committed to solving the problem.
All they really needed was one drone.
Well, it's a very terrible situation. When I left, they were in very bad shape. We would have done something very easily with them.
Caucasians!
Let me end with this. I understand my predecessor's an eagle pass today. So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you, in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know it's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen.
And it did not have to be this way to declare an invasion and for Texas to defend ourselves.
Coming over the top!
I've been burned.
A $3 million fraud scheme, or as it's more commonly known,
The Texas National Guard.
Joe Biden is a real president. Republicans are full of crap.
The United States of America is being invaded.
And one of the problems is that when you come into this country to seek asylum, it often takes 10 years for your claim to be adjudicated. And so it's an incentive for people to come into the country who have invalid claims because you get 10 years of working in the United States, even if you don't qualify for asylum. So what our bill would have done is not just allow the president to shut down the border, but also expedite the asylum process so that all those claims are heard in 6 months instead of 10 years. And what that would do is provide a tremendous disincentive to anybody coming to the United States who is going to lose their claim. So our bill would have fixed a lot of the biggest problems in the immigration system. And again, that's the reason Donald Trump opposes it, because it actually would have worked.
Snubbed.
Texas is the only state in the history of America to build our own border wall. But what our National Guard has done, they have sealed off this entire park and taken it over. I will not allow this Texas land to be used by the Biden administration to violate American laws. And I asked the National Guard to take it over, and they did in one day.
Long before they took over a city park. But long before they did that, no one was crossing there. It was already secure. That was just smoke and mirrors.
The Texas National Guard has wired it shut. Because we are having to do so much to secure our border.
But come on, just because you hate somebody doesn't mean you can't still have a very successful working relationship with them.
Texas will continue to bus those migrants to sanctuary cities all across the United States of America. But I am very thankful for the model set by President
Biden, in his first week or so in office, introduced an immigration and border reform bill. And though it didn't get any coverage in the press, he implemented one of the toughest new regulatory regimes at the border in decades, a regime that was opposed by, frankly, many progressive immigration groups. So it's just actually not true when people say, well, President Biden didn't do anything on the border until this summer. He actually has. What changed is that there are now 10,000 people showing up on a daily basis.
So thank you, President Trump.
And so the crisis is bigger, it's more immediate. And what also changed is that finally Republicans, we thought, were willing to come to the table and get something done, something they were not willing to do for the first 3 years of President Biden's term.
I guess the argument is, if he had been willing to, if Democrats had been willing to negotiate in the way that you guys did on this bill now, earlier, would that have, do you think it would have had a chance of passing?
No, I understand now that Republicans will not support a bipartisan border fix, that they are only interested in this issue remaining a political wedge issue. Like, what would Republican senators do on the weekends if they couldn't fly down to the border, dress up like Border Patrol officers and pretend that they're chasing down undocumented immigrants? So I don't think at any point Republicans were going to be ready to get a deal. Donald Trump was never going to let that happen.
They weren't giving it to anybody. They didn't have it. Now they're a rich country again. They have $250 billion and rich as you can be, and they're handing the money out all over the place. So, you know, a lot of things changed. Bad shape. Now they're in good shape. We actually buy their oil, if you can believe it, and we refine it in Houston.
And said, quote, very few people, maybe almost nobody, can do what I do. I think those were his kids' Secret Service code names. Maybe almost nobody.
But we would not be playing games with Venezuela. They would not be doing what they're doing. Now they're sending people, and they just put out a statement last week. We're not taking them back. They're sending their people from jails and prisons and mental institutions.
Warren, it could also cause a combo reaction called vomiria.
That wouldn't happen with the Trump administration, that I can tell you.
We deployed those big orange buoys into the Rio Grande.
The idea that cutting up children with razor wire, floating underneath the water in the Rio Grande, is securing anything is absurd. It's just evil bullshit, and Republicans are full of evil bullshit.
And Joe Biden filed a lawsuit to try to put a stop to it. Even though that lawsuit is tied up in the courts right now, those buoys remain in the Rio Grande River as we speak right now.
I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the governor and the entire group of people behind me. And I would call them staff, and I would call them representatives and generals. They are unbelievable people. The job they've done so quickly and so effectively. And congratulations. Congratulations to all of you guys. Fantastic job. Really, General. Great job. Thank you all very much. Great honor. Thank you.
Lunch to lunch.
Fortunately for Greg Abbott, they had all those boats swimming around out there. Because if that son of a bitch fell in, you know that razor wire would have drug his ass under. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal. Y'all take it easy. Oh, because the motherfucker can't walk. And you know why that is? Because the motherfucker got hit by a falling tree and then sued for $5 million. Heck, he's been on disability since 1984. Even though he's gone out of his way to make sure that that's less and less available to other Texans. That's a fact. Look it up. These people are full of shit. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal. Y'all take it easy.
But I want to remind everyone about the real White House crime family. Why did Saudi Arabia give Jared Kushner $2 billion, billion with a B, just months after he left the Trump White House? And why did the Saudis spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at Trump properties while he was still the president? We also know that Jared Kushner used his cushy White House job to secure a $100 billion arms deal for Saudi Arabia and did other favors as well. Now, some members of the majority actually agree that this was unethical. And in fact, a few weeks ago, Jared Kushner was asked by a reporter about his grift. He responded, "Are we still really doing this?" Yes, Jared, we are still really doing this.
You don't have any credibility when you only want to look at one side of the coin.
Okay, I know it's shitty, but it's the reality.